8 years as president, 3 years as governor, and many years as senator in permanent, that sincere dialogue with communities.
Thank you, President Uribe. And just to be more precise, what would you have done differently? Do you have any regrets looking back?
Maybe, and I will have more regrets later on, because at this moment I am still very active, aware of my problems. Therefore, when you are active, you do not consider to dedicate time to think in your mistakes, in what you have done differently. But in my case, many mistakes, always acting with love for my country.
Okay, and before we go any further, as you know, NYU received many requests to cancel this event, but also many people wanted the opportunity to hear what you have to say on the current developments in Colombia, especially with regard to the recent protests. Day by day, it is becoming more clear that these protests are symptomatic of more general discontent of the Colombian people with the socio-economic situation and renewed violence versus being more closely defined or focused on withdrawing the tax reform proposals. Against this backdrop and in the context of open and plural dialogue, what do you say to those that would have liked NYU to cancel this event? And what do you think will take to address the demands of protesters taking to the streets right now in Colombia?
First, the ladies and gentlemen wanting to cancel this event. For many years, I have suffered the lack of debate, the limitation of debate against my ideas, and the excess of libels, of calumnies. In many parts of my country and overseas, many people want to fight me without discussing with me. And I do all the opposite. I am open to discussion. I have said to you in the university, I have no limits for the questions you want to make. The protesters, in my opinion, there is a coincidence between social discontent, poverty aggravated by the pandemic, second. Third, political motivation. Fourth, links with the Chilean problem. And fifth, the penetration of the Venezuela dictatorship in Colombia. At the end of the year 2019, we had the first wave of this protest, of the people, of many people going to the streets. President Duque was beginning his government and was doing very well. He found the economy at a very low point, and with the reform he introduced during the year 2019, the economy began to increase, to perform very well. During the first 2 months of the year 2020, January and February, our economy grew by 4.2%, but it came the pandemic. Therefore, I could not understand the social reasons of the protesters in the year 2019. They spoke about education. President Duque has expanded the budget of education by 30%, And now he wants to move further, to move to have other much more ambitious steps. At this moment, with this widening of the educational budget. In Colombia, we have 700,000 university students with scholarships, but President Duque is asking for some taxes for the wealthiest people of the country to finance social programs, such as free university education for students of what we call the lower income status, Stata 1, 2, and 3. Therefore, the tax reform, I support President Duque, but the party and we were in disagreement with the original text. But this tax reform, this original text has been retired, has been already retired from country. And what President Duque is saying at this moment is this: the government has made a great effort to give subsidies to support the poorest people affected by this pandemic, but we need many more social programs and resources. Therefore, what President Duque has said in the last week, we are ready to implement only one tax reform, very simple and social tax reform, to levy taxes on the wealthiest people of the country to finance these social projects. When I see that tax reform and the dimension of violence, my conclusion is this: that tax reform could justify the presence of many protesters in the streets of Colombia, but it is not the cause of violence. The violence in Colombia is premeditated. The violence in Colombia is being expanded by groups dedicated to narco trafficking. The violence in Colombia today is the effect of the mistaken peace agreement of the former administration previous to the President Duque administration that Colombia had.
Thank you, President Uribe. Will you sit down with those who oppose you and try to find common ground and have a healthy dialogue with them